Hello and welcome back to the channel. My name is Casey, and if you've been following along, you know that we have been renovating our kitchen in the fixer-upper house that we bought this summer. Now we've had a few starts and stops in this space as we work on other areas in the house. This week I'm continuing to work on the fridge cabinet. So I've got the main bones of the fridge cabinet put together. I've got the upper cabinet mostly completed. I still have a few little things I'd like to do in there. But right now I want to focus on building a little pull-out shelf for the little sliver of space beside the fridge that kind of gives me some space to open up the fridge door. So I didn't want that space to go totally wasted, and it's not very big, and I can only pull the cabinet out as far as the light switch on the wall over here. So it's going to be a pretty narrow and skinny shelf, and it's going to be just under 5 inches. And I also need to raise the bottom of this shelf up so that it is above the base trim that I have around the entire house and also running into the fridge cabinet, because I don't want that shelf to be rubbing up against the trim. I'm just going to put it above the trim. So what I've done is I've taken a piece of trim and attached it to a piece of plywood. This will be where my hardware is going to sit for the shelf kind of slider hardware. And then this is going to go next to the fridge on the floor. I've also cut a piece of plywood to go on the bottom. It will basically go down here just to kind of keep it from, kind of keep it straight at the bottom here. So I've got those pieces, and I'm using scrap wood to create all of these pieces. So this is basically going to be just a platform on top of which I will also have some slider hardware, and then I'll build a shelf separately, and that will attach to the slider hardware, and it can go back and forth this way. So I had originally bought some undermount drawer slide hardware that I thought was going to be really heavy duty and great for an application like this. But it turns out that the space that I have is too narrow to have two of those sliders right next to each other. It's just not going to work. Well, I was looking at my sliders that I used for the rest of the drawers in this kitchen, and it turns out they have a higher weight capacity, 100 pounds versus the 77, I think, pounds for those undermount sliders. So I think that these are gonna work just fine. And I already have some, I have some left over. So I'm gonna use these basic side mount drawer slides for the shelf assembly. So the next thing I need to do is put some blocking basically on the little platform that I've made to attach the slider hardware to. I started by attaching the slide hardware first to this little strip of plywood that I had pre-drilled some pocket holes in, and then I'll attach that to the top of the platform. And I'm attaching the side that's going to be against the wall first. I also used a level to draw a line from the front of the face frame of the cabinet down to the floor so I know where to position my little platform here. And I drew a second line that was 3/4 inch back from that line because I want my platform to be positioned 3/4 inch behind the face frame. Then I checked for the stud location so that I could screw this strip of plywood into the wall to secure the platform in place. So I've got the slider attached to the other side here, and I'm just going to screw that into this platform. I attached the other piece of the slider hardware to another strip of plywood that is also pre-drilled with pocket holes. Then I attached that to another piece of plywood that will act as the platform for the actual shelf that's going to slide back and forth. The only difference is that this assembly is a little bit more narrow, and these slides are on the exterior instead of on the interior, so that these will slide into the platform that I just built. These pocket holes are really helping me here because that is such a narrow space to drill into, but since I'm going vertically, I can get in there pretty easily. And this is the point in this project where my confidence really started to kick in. This felt like the most complicated part of this whole process for me. I find that if I try to problem solve one project, like one whole project all at once, I get a little bit overwhelmed. So it helps me to break down these projects into like little mini projects. And I'm also usually not trying to do everything all at once, all in one day or all in one week. Usually with each smaller mini project, I'm like, okay, I'm doing this one thing today. Like today I'm going to build the slide platform. Tomorrow I will build the shelf. And if I feel confident, I'll attach the shelf to the slide platform and so on. So it helps to really break it down and kind of build my confidence over the course of an entire project instead of trying to tackle everything all at once and getting burned out and tired and frustrated. And in case watching me nail this back on my shelf is making you nervous, rest assured my hands were nowhere in the way. I know someone's gonna watch this and be like, oh my God, you're making me so nervous because you look like you're gonna nail your hands. I promise, I was keeping my hands out of the way. I'm very invested in not putting nails through my fingers. Now, I want to put a slider on top of the shelf as well, just to kind of keep it from rocking back and forth. And since my face frame extends below the bottom of the cabinet about 3/4 inch, I'm just going to add a little bit of blocking there to attach the slider to so that it doesn't bump into the face frame when I try to open and close the cabinet. I also had some questions recently about the air gap around the fridge and making sure that I have plenty of airspace back there, which I will address at the end of this video. So watch till the end and I'll kind of explain how that all works. Next, I screwed my shelf to the platform on the bottom. And I had Alan hold a level up to the shelf to make sure that it was straight while I screwed in the top slider to the top of the shelf. Oh, and Alan just loves to get in there with his little flashlight and inspect my work, but I had to tell him to get back. We have fun though. We're having a good time here, people. The next thing that I want to work on is adding a face to this little pull-out shelf thing that I've created. It works pretty well, actually. I'm pretty impressed with myself for building this. And I have about probably 1/8 of an inch of distance from the wall here. It does have to stop at the light switch here. I could try to move the switch, but I don't want to fool with it. But this comes out enough that I can get a broom and like a little foldable step ladder. I'm actually looking for a step ladder to put in here. I was originally thinking that I was going to use this for canned goods storage, but the more I think about it, I'm like, I don't know that I need it right there. So I'm going to try it out as a little broom closet situation first. And later, if I decide I need to add shelves, that's actually pretty easy to do. So now that I've got this whole thing assembled, I can just add the front on it that will be painted the same color as the cabinets, and then there will be a handle there. I bought a piece of 1x6 maple to put on the front of this little pull out here. So that piece of wood is actually too wide for this. I'm gonna have to rip it down to about 4 3/8 inch wide to fit on the front here and still be able to slide in and out. And then I also have to cut it down to size. So once I cut it and apply it to the front, it's gonna cover all of the hardware. You won't be able to see that. And then I'll have a piece of trim down here at the bottom to kind of continue that trim around that little corner underneath this little pull-out shelf. And then once I get that positioned on there and kind of fine tune the placement of that, I'll take it off, paint the face, and then put it back on and then add hardware. Ooh, hey, the big boy. So I think I want to put it about 3/32 inch above the trim below, so I'll probably need to get a shim. Let me do that real quick. Just set that there. So I've got it about 1/8 of an inch proud of the front here. Yeah. Yep. Nice. I do need to just trim the top just a little bit so that it sits underneath this face frame. So now I just need to take that off. Again, I'm gonna paint it, and while the paint is drying, I'm gonna add some edge banding to the front edge of the shelf piece that's gonna be exposed when you open it up so that you don't see all the little raw edges of the plywood and the factory markings and all of that stuff. I'll also add some trim down here at the bottom to close up the bottom of this. Once the paint dries, I will reattach the face to this little pull out and add a handle to the pull out, and I also need to add handles to the 2 doors here above the fridge. Nope. There we go. Ooh, hello. Okay. Hopefully I never have to do that again. I just need you to help me hold it up while I attach it to these things. Just hold it about right there. Got it? Okay, thank you. this little slider is finished. I'm actually really proud of this project. I do need to add some hardware on the interior to kind of hold all the things that I actually want to put in here. And my extra knobs came in so that I could put those on the upper cabinet doors. I also ended up painting that little piece of trim down there below the slide out. Just FYI, it looked a little bit off to me, so I do eventually paint that. One question that I wanted to address that I forgot to address in previous videos is the air gaps around the fridge inside this cabinet. So the manufacturer's recommendations for this particular fridge, this is a GE refrigerator, is to provide about 1 to 2 inches of air gap on the top and the back of the fridge. And this cabinet does allow for that air gap. It's just hard to tell because of the face frame. So the face frame actually comes down to about a 1/2 inch above the door assembly, but behind the door assembly, the top of the fridge is actually about 1 inch or 2 below that. And my face frame is actually extending below the bottom of the cabinet about 3/4 inch. So I have roughly 2 or more inches above the fridge for an air gap. That air can escape around the edges of the fridge, and the same goes for the back. I have about 2 inches of space behind the fridge for that air gap. So while the face frame is really close to the edges of the fridge all around, there is a lot of air gap around the fridge, behind the face frame, and below the cabinet. Thanks so much for watching. I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!